Now, today we're back again with another video. Today we're back again with a little something different. We going back to educational videos. I think everything been educational lately, you know what I mean? Or it's just been something that we just been reacting to just for free, you know what I'm saying? Today we react to a video called Terrifying Things Scientists Have Seen in Space. Now, the reason we chose this video is because there ain't many stuff that you can really explain that you see in space. There could be some unbelievable stuff out there. You know what I'm saying? I feel like the ocean is more so like you can't like we already know it's aliens in the ocean for sure. We already know that. You know what I'm saying? Like it really just makes sense now. It's a whole nother world down there that we never seen before. So you know what I'm saying? Different species and shit. We could say that those is like aliens or other creatures. You know what I'm saying? And I remember vividly seeing or vividly hearing that basically Islam says that from what I heard, the science, because Islam is actually mixed with some science too, a lot of science actually. That's why the religion is so great. You know what I mean? But basically, anything that's on land is in the water as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't really know how to explain that to you, but the way I figured that out is because I remember when the can of tuna fish when I bought it, it was like chicken of the sea. And that's when I was like, chicken of the sea? Hmm. And then we hearing that this stuff called mermaids, this stuff called sirens and shit. And then they got like, it just started to make sense now. Everything in the water is also land versions of it, and everything that's on land is a water version of it. You know what I mean? So like I can't really explain where I heard this at, but it just really started to make sense. It's like everything that's on land, there's a water version of it too. So like yeah, I really started to figure that out. So yeah, I ain't even gonna lie though. We gonna get to this video though. You know, I try to make the intro as less long as I can, or short as I can. You know what I mean? So let's go. Make sure I turn this up because I know a lot of videos y'all can't really hear like anything. You know what I mean? So let's get into that.
The craziest things ever seen in space. The Oh My God particle. It is October 15th, 1991, and you and your best scientist bro are hanging out at the Fly's Eye Observatory in Utah. You're doing what you do every evening. You're looking into space for ultra high energy cosmic rays, trying to find something cool and learn more about the universe. This night was like any other night, if not quieter. There was no new discoveries and nothing to even observe whatsoever. And while you and your scientist buddy were just throwing back scientific beers, you notice a light blinking on your desk. And it's a signal that the Fly's Eye Observatory is picking up something strong. And because this is the most action you've had all night, you decide to take a look at the data. And what you see on the chart blows your mind. As your scientific jaw drops to the scientific floor, all your scientific buddy could say is, "What do you see?" And while thoughts and ideas were bouncing around your mind at a million miles per hour, the only words you could utter were, "Oh my God." Later leading to the name of this now iconic particle. The Oh My God particle, which has no relation to the God particle, which came later, was an ultra high energy cosmic ray that was obviously detected by the Fly's Eye Observatory in Utah in 1991. And at the time, the Oh My God particle was the highest energy cosmic ray ever to be observed. And as of today, in 2026, that record has still yet to be broken, making this particle very fitting of its name. Now, interestingly and somewhat unsurprisingly, this experimental observatory that was built on a military base in Utah was actually specifically built for this one purpose. The so-called high-resolution Fly's Eye detector was literally meant to only capture ultra-high energy cosmic rays, and that it definitely did. You see, the reason why the Oh My God particle is so significant and the reason why it was so shocking to the scientists who first observed it is because it wasn't only just an anomaly or something that was rare. The energy and speed in which the Oh My God particle possessed was thought to be scientifically impossible prior to its discovery. And even after its observation, it was highly questioned and thoroughly ensured that this wasn't just a miscalculation. For a bit more context, we don't quite know what type of particle the Oh My God particle was, although we can assume that it was a proton due to the fact that nearly 70% of high energy cosmic rays are protons. However, fortunately, what we do know is the sheer insane power that this mysterious particle possessed. For starters, the collision energy of the Oh My God particle was 40 million times more powerful than the highest energy protons ever produced in the world's strongest particle accelerator. That's right. This one random particle was literally 40
How is
million
this
times
terrifying?
stronger than the strongest particle that we
How the
intentionally
fuck is
accelerated
this terrifying,
on Earth.
bro?
And while that obviously is impressive, it's also a bit deceiving. Because although it technically had 40 million times more energy, not all of that energy was available. And the definition of availability in the context of particle collision essentially means the amount of energy that is actually able to create new particles in the event of a collision. And it's been calculated that in the event of an actual particle collision,
one of the things that you learn
come
in the
on,
Army,
bro.
specifically at the Army
Get
values,
your
loyalty,
ass outta here,
duty,
bro.
respect,
Yo.
selfless service, honor.
the oh my god particle would have had roughly 200 times more energy than the most energetic particle in the world's best particle accelerator. Which is, once again, still impressive, but not 40 million times more impressive. But we've still got more stats to discuss. Going back to the type of particle that the oh my god particle even is. Assuming that this particle was a proton to begin with, we can assume its rest mass and do the following calculation to determine how fast the particle was going.
Get your ass
I'm not
outta
even
here,
going
bro.
to try.
Hey, bro. What the fuck? Rogue planets. Nah, I ain't gonna lie, whoa, y'all. We about to go to something else, cause this is a whole bunch of bullshit just gathered in a fucking video. This shit ain't even like good to learn. Called Conspiracy Theories Medieval People Believed In. I thought this would be way more interesting than the Space John, cause people don't really listen. They can't even explore the fucking ocean, so I don't believe that they went out there, my nigga. You can't. You tell me you go out there, but you can't explore 5% of the ocean. Only 5% of the ocean is unexplored, or 5% of the ocean is explored. That's what you mean to tell me? So y'all can't go down there, but y'all got the power to go out there. How the fuck that work? So that video really was not interesting to actually react to. I'm not even gonna lie. And that's why we ended it right there. Shut that shit right the fuck down. All right, so conspiracy theories medieval people believed in. Let's get it.
All around the world, people are becoming increasingly concerned about misinformation and deliberate lies being spread as a way to undermine both the existing political and public order. The largely deregulated internet, especially social media, has been the perfect vehicle to allow both individuals and enemy states to spread such misinformation. But the use of propaganda and the conspiracy theories that it has spawned have been around for centuries. We should remember that in the medieval period especially, there was a great deal of superstition and fear, and conspiracy theories can be incredibly comforting because they help people to understand the world around them and make sense of events out of their control. Let's travel back in time now to the Middle Ages to take a look at vicious rumours, religious scapegoats, and some political fake news. Welcome to Medieval Madness. Independent women. Medieval England just loved a bit of fake news about queens. Many of them were powerful and rich women in their own right, often coming from foreign lands, making them the perfect target for rumour, gossip, and slander. Female, rich and foreign, coming over here and marrying our kings, how dare they? Joan of Navarre, Duchess of Brittany and French wife of Henry IV, was said to have a court full of foreign spies. But that was only after her husband died and she was left as stepmother to the new King Henry V. Given an influential position at court, Joan acted as Henry's regent in his absence when he went off to France in 1415 and won his famous victory at the Battle of Agincourt. The fact that didn't go down well with her political enemies, who soon started the vicious rumours about her plots and schemes, quote, "for the death and destruction of our said Lord the King, in the most evil and terrible manner imaginable." Another conspiracy theory that became popular in the Middle Ages was the belief that certain women used sorcery and witchcraft to advance their rise to power. In 1464, King Edward IV shocked his English courtiers
Well, I mean, we
when he
seeing that
decided
now.
to
I'm
marry
gonna-
Elizabeth Woodville.
We are seeing that
middle
now. You know what I'm saying? I feel like Beyonce probably did some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? She's just a modern version of it. You know what I'm saying? So, shut out my face. That's basically like she basically just a modern version of it. And we all know Beyonce do witchcraft. I heard her mom do witchcraft too. So that's that's pretty odd, ain't it?
Ranking widow instead of a foreign princess. Elizabeth, who was described as the most beautiful woman in the British Isles, now suddenly had the, quote, heavy-lidded eyes of a dragon. Her status as a commoner led to her actions as a queen being seen as disrespectful and arrogant. When her husband died, she was accused of witchcraft and their children were declared illegitimate so that her brother-in-law Richard III could take the throne. It's important to remember that the medievals did not hang witches, they hanged women.
What?
To the victor the spoils. Speaking of the infamous Richard III, one woman who became the perfect foil for a piece of fake news that has often been accepted as historical fact was Anne Neville, his wife. As we reach the end of the Wars of the Roses, a real Game of Thrones, in 1485, Henry Tudor has defeated the wicked Richard of Bosworth to become King Henry VII. At least that's the story that the Tudor dynasty likes to put about. The English historian John Root wrote a book for his new boss, Henry, titled The History of the Kings of England. In it, he described Henry as a good king who, quote, will be remembered for generations to come. As for Richard, Root stated that he was a freak who was in his mother's womb for 2 years and was therefore born with teeth and shoulder-length hair, his body distorted. But in the Root role written during Richard's reign, Root referred to his then boss as a good lord and a mighty prince. Although later he also accuses Richard of murdering several people, among them his wife Anne. The actual cause of her death is unknown, although it was likely tuberculosis, but the rumours soon started that Richard had poisoned her so that he could marry his niece Elizabeth of York, a popular girl who ended up married to the Lancastrian Henry VII in a bid to bring the two houses together. By the time Shakespeare was writing his tragedy of Richard III for his Elizabeth Tudor audience, Richard's appearance and wicked deeds had become accepted as historical fact. It would seem we should never believe a historian who is writing a piece to please the people who pay his wages.
Hey, come on, bro.
The Double Bluff. Another English king that became the subject of a conspiracy theory was Richard II. He was usurped by his cousin, who became King Henry IV, also known as Henry Bolingbroke. Richard, who was only 10 years old when he succeeded to the throne in 1377, wasn't, by all accounts, very good at his job. After being kept prisoner by Henry, Richard is thought to have been starved to death in Pontefract Castle. Soon a rumour began to circulate, claiming that Richard was alive and about to reclaim the throne. Henry knew full well that his cousin was dead, but because he recognised that the conspiracy theory could be even more damaging than the truth, Henry prosecuted many of the rumour-mongers to stop the fake news from spreading. Scotland knew that the rumour was a gift too good to ignore, and they produced Thomas Ward, an impostor, who they claimed was the real Richard II. After all, a weakened England meant that an invasion over the border was less likely. In a deliberate attempt to weaken their enemy, the Scots spread disinformation. Something in the water. Across medieval Europe, the official policy of the Catholic Church was to protect Jews, in part because Jesus was Jewish. However, when the Black Death first reached Europe in 1348, Jews were
Y'all wanna
used
know
as
what's crazy?
scapegoats
They
and false
showing y'all
accusations
white
of-
Jesus, but Jesus was actually black. That's so crazy to me. And they keep sticking to that whole thing where they keep saying that he white, bro. He's not white. Original Jesus is black, my nigga. Y'all gotta understand that. But yeah, carry on.
made that they had deliberately caused the disease by poisoning wells. In Europe, at a time full of religious fanaticism, ignorance, and superstition, a mysterious plague was always going to be connected with God's wrath. But why would God be angry with the medievals? Well, there could be several reasons: the constant warring between England and France, or the constant fighting all over Europe for that matter. The Germans and Italians were always at one another's throats, as were the papal states of Sicily and Naples. Others believed that the plague was sent as a punishment for not defending the Holy Land well enough against the Muslim infidel. It was quite obvious at this point that the Christians were never going to be able to reclaim the Kingdom of Jerusalem from the Ottoman Empire. Then a new idea came to light. What if it was because they had allowed Jews to live among them and had been permitted to practice their religion? Maybe the Jews had caused the illness because they were poisoning the water supply. Well, according to the Christians, Jews were dying at only half the rate as they weren't using the communal wells located in towns and cities. But why would the Jews want to kill all of the Christians? Well, simply because they were doing the devil's work and took great delight in destroying the Christ worshippers. Sadly, in a time of great fear, everybody was looking for someone to blame, and prejudices that were already well established thrived. The first Jewish massacre with a direct link to the plague started in Toulon in 1348 when the Jewish court was raided and 40 Jews were murdered in their homes. As the Black Death reached its height in April and May of 1348, other pogroms took place. By the following year, all of Europe was involved in the persecutions and massacres. In Erfurt, somewhere between 100 and 3,000 people were killed, the survivors expelled. This was followed by further atrocities in Basel, Zurich, Flanders, and Aragon in Spain. In Strasbourg, Valentine's Day of 1349 saw the burning of around 2,000 Jews, and so it went on throughout the plague-affected cities until in 1350, as the plague waned, so did the violence. Missing time. We thought it would be interesting to finish on a more modern-day conspiracy theory that, although it concerns the Middle Ages, didn't pop up until 1991. Herbert Illig first asserted the theory, which claims that the Holy Roman Emperor Otto III and Pope Sylvester II, it's also possible that Byzantine Emperor Constantine VII was involved as well, fabricated the Anno Domini dating system retrospectively, that is, after the fact, so that they would be at the centre of the special year 1000 AD, and so they could rewrite history and legitimize Otto's claim to the Roman Empire. Essentially, what they did was push the calendar forward 297 years to reach 1000 AD, because the date was exactly 1000 years after the birth of Christ, and that would help them to strengthen.
Yo, I just seen this on TikTok yesterday, but they was basically saying like, when they did that, they think that that's still going up today. So basically, in reality, the year that we on right now is very like 1739 or something like that, like some bullshit like that. So and then people was coming up with something about the world ending in 2012, and it's not 2012 yet. Basically, I hope that's not true though, bro. I hope that's not true though. That would be crazy. But regardless, I wouldn't even be scared, because it's like, in reality, if it's really 1729, right, and it's not 2012 yet, then I'll really be dead by 2012. So that would basically mean I wouldn't be here to experience none of the little disaster that is going to take everybody out.
Their reigns and give them a special place in history. Then they made up a load of stuff adding fictional people and events and rewrote the history books. As proof of this conspiracy, it claims that there was a lack of archaeological evidence dating from 614 to 911 AD, meaning that medieval historians relied on written sources too much. As we have seen, historians can be extremely unreliable narrators. Not YouTube historians, though. Illig also claims that Romanesque architecture is present in 10th century Western Europe, and that suggests that the Roman era was not as long ago as we are led to believe. Illig said that when the Julian calendar was reformed to the Gregorian calendar in 1582, 10 days were removed when actually it should have been 13 days that were taken away if the period from the start of the Julian solar calendar in 45 BC was correctly counted. It is this 3-day anomaly, he says, that corresponds to the 3 phantom centuries. Strap yourself in for what I'm about to tell you. This means that we are actually now living in the 1700s, as there is a 300-year chunk of history that is completely fictitious. And if true,
wait. So my question is, who would be the fake people then that they made up? That's my question.
Means that there are a lot.
I feel like they could probably easily do that too. They could make us believe that something happened back then, and he had these historical ass people, but they weren't even real. They never existed. Because y'all do realize, if they have a whole thing where they can put fiction and they can put false, or they could put fiction, or they could put like real stuff, like they could basically create those little categories and shit. So they probably, you never know what they did.
historical events and figures that never existed, including Alfred the Great, the Holy Roman Emperor Charlemagne, the Viking...
We don't give a fuck about him. That could be a fairy tale if it is. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, I'm concerned about the religion part. Cause if they able to make some shit like that up, they could basically put that as like man-made. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm worried
England
about.
and the Tang Dynasty in China, to name a few. The sketchy amount of history that covers the time period could explain why the early medieval period was known as the Dark Ages, and why during that time there were hardly any significant cultural or scientific developments, and why hardly any literature from the Dark Ages has survived. It's also true that we don't have any idea about the power
Didn't they
of the
burn down like a
European Church
historical
in the
library or
period,
some shit that
although
had
we
everything
do
in
know
it?
it ruled
Everything
every
we need to
aspect
know
of
as
life
humans?
later. With no books and no
I'm not
mechanical
tripping.
clocks, is it possible that two emperors and a pope could have deceived millions of people? Well, in general, the answer is
yeah. Yes. If the Jewish people can do it now, bro, and they can be behind everything and we don't know, bro, hell yeah, they can do that shit, nigga.
No, and modern historians have dismissed the theory as pseudo-history for several reasons. One major flaw being its Eurocentrism, as there are continuous historical records covering the period in question from other civilizations. However, there are works from earlier 18th century scholars like Joseph Scaliger and Dionysius Petavius who studied ancient systems of chronology, and Jean Hardouin who questioned the authenticity of the dates on medieval documents and church writings that also point to this theory. It would seem that although today technology may be the means by which misinformation is quickly spread, conspiracy theories have been quite common throughout history. Even before the internet, in fact even before the printing press was invented, fake news was being broadcast around the world. Today we live in an age of mistrust, and academics and historians have an important part to play in pointing out the unbiased truth. Because the conspiracy theories that we are living with today are certainly not the first, and will definitely not be the last. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Medieval Madness. Please let us know in the comments down below if there's any medieval conspiracy theories that we missed off this list. And if you enjoyed this video, then you could really help us out by subscribing, as we do release a new video every Friday. So until next time, I hope everyone has an amazing week. Cheers!
I ain't gonna lie, y'all, that's the end of the video. I hope y'all enjoyed. I know I did. This is probably the most normal video that we've had this entire month or week. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that's good. I ain't gonna lie though. Y'all be safe out there. We out, we bipping it. Make sure y'all subscribe to the channel, like the video, you know what I'm saying? Because we need more interactions. We need more of a fan base, you know what I'm saying? We need to really create that shit. If we're able to do that, you know what I'm saying, we can put more stuff out there, and we can basically upgrade the channel more, and I can give y'all way better stuff, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I ain't gonna lie though, we out, we bipping.